Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hannah Summerhill Show. Thank you guys for being here with me today. I'm really grateful for you all, and I just want to say that my community has been so supportive of me in the past couple weeks as I've gone through something really difficult that I wanted to share with you guys. So this is going to be a more personal episode, and actually I pulled the most perfect card right before we started for today, which says, I release time and let the universe show me what to do. So that's perfect for today's topic because I've been thinking about time a lot lately and divine timing. And one of the reasons is because I recently, sadly, suffered a miscarriage. And I was very excited to be pregnant when I got pregnant with my husband, and it was our first pregnancy. And this is obviously the last way you want your first pregnancy or any pregnancy to end. But I felt like I had to talk about this because I feel like such a different person after this experience. It's a completely new chapter that I'm moving forward into. I'm moving forward with the grief, but in a lot of ways, I feel like I am rising like a phoenix from these ashes. And it's experiences like this that can be such a filtering system in a way. And there are so many gifts in that I acknowledge, even with the sadness and the pain of all of it. But I move forward grateful. I move forward reborn in a way. But it didn't feel authentic to not share with you guys what I've been going through. And for the community who has reached out to me, who does know, like my magic members and ascenders, and some of you on Instagram have been so kind and sweet and sharing your stories. And even though this is something that is so hard and so heartbreaking to get through, it is so common. So I obviously knew that miscarriage was a risk. Between 15 and 23% of pregnancies end in miscarriage. What I didn't know, though, I got to the age of 39 without knowing this could happen, is that you could have something called a silent miscarriage. And that is what I had. So a silent miscarriage is where your body doesn't register that the pregnancy is no longer viable, but you stay pregnant. So the hormones continue to rise, the placenta actually continues to grow, and the uterus continues to grow, and you feel very much pregnant, but the baby hasn't continued to grow. Your body just hasn't registered it. I always thought when you have a miscarriage, you'll know you will bleed. And I didn't. So Dave, my husband, and I got to our first ultrasound appointment, very excited to see our baby on the screen for the first time. And we found out pretty quickly, I mean, you don't need to be a doctor to realize that something wasn't right. There was no baby on the screen. And I could see the look in the midwife's eyes looking at the screen and just, her brow furrowed. And it was one of the most nightmarish moments of my life. And it's crazy because when you're pregnant, even if you're not pregnant that long, you get really attached to the idea of the baby. You get really attached to being a parent, especially a first-time parent, and your whole brain chemistry changes. As soon as I saw the pregnancy test was positive, I felt like a completely different person, and I know parents out there can relate, especially moms. Instead of thinking about yourself, you're thinking completely about this other being, not to mention the hormones and all of it. And there's so much joy in that. And I actually loved being pregnant, and I was having a really great first trimester. And when you're counting down the days till you're in the clear past the first trimester, every day can feel like a week and every week can feel like a month. So one of the hardest parts of this whole experience was within the course of 3 minutes, being so excited to see our baby, and then very quickly realizing something was wrong, and then being given my options to end the pregnancy. And the sad thing is so many women have been through this. And so I want to talk about it. And I want to talk about how it's changed, if at all, how it's changed my relationship to manifestation, because that's actually a question that I've gotten from some of you and something that I've wondered about for myself. There are 3 ways you can handle a silent miscarriage. The first is to let your body register it on its own. The second is to take an abortion pill. And the third is to get a surgery to remove the pregnancy called a DNC. Honestly, there's no great option. I couldn't imagine waiting for my body to naturally register this miscarriage. And I couldn't imagine staying pregnant for potentially weeks longer just to randomly one day when I'm, out and about, my body registers it and I start to bleed. I couldn't imagine that hell. Even though I'm a pretty low intervention person, instantly I was like, the surgery. I want this surgery. I want it as soon as possible. And luckily, my husband was very supportive of that. The thing with having a DNC, though, however, is that you are then preparing and then recovering from surgery. And that's a whole mindfuck in itself. Going into surgery, meeting the anesthesiologist, all the nurses, the doctor who would perform it, everybody was so kind and empathetic. Every single person that we met with said, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. And I have to say, I was in a daze. I was kind of disassociated from my body. I remember at one point during that hellish couple days in between finding out about the miscarriage and getting the surgery, I saw this notebook on my bedside table and I saw my name and I was like, who is that? I just did not feel connected to who I was. Probably for my own protection. My body was just in complete shock and I was grieving. So after the surgery, it took me several days to just recover physically. I had a pretty good recovery, but surgery is still scary. You're under anesthesia. You have people you just met entering your womb space, and it's traumatic. Even with the kindest people and the best outcome, the whole experience is traumatic. And I wasn't sure if I was going to share anything about this experience with anybody. It is so isolating. It is so hard, but I'm so glad I did share because so many people that I know, close friends, family members, former coworkers, friends that, maybe are more acquaintances, reached out to me and shared their own experiences, how suffering their miscarriage was one of the darkest moments of their life. And even though it doesn't make it easier to know how common it is, it actually doesn't make it easier at all. I'm nervous. I can't imagine going through this again. And I know women go through it, many times sometimes before they have a healthy pregnancy. It did help to know that so many women have gone through this. They've gone on to have healthy babies and happy families, and they got through it. And so this was really one of those moments, a before and after moment in my life where I just felt like I will never be the same after experiencing this. And I'm so grateful that I have an amazing partner to support me and an amazing community of family and friends to support me. So I took about a little over a week in bed, just not doing anything, just grieving, letting myself grieve, reading books. My friends sent me magazines, flowers, chocolates, all of that actually really helped to get through it, to distract me. The chocolate did make me feel better. Reading People magazine did make me feel better. Reading books in bed, just being off my phone, cuddling with my husband, crying together, it's necessary. It's necessary. And I knew there was no way I could bypass that grief ever. And I was actually talking to my therapist about this today. And I was like, that time of grieving, and I'm still in it, right? But I'm starting to feel more like myself, luckily. But that time of grieving was so profound in a way because so much of my life and my days is about other people, the clients that I serve, the friends that I support, the content that I create, the ways that I show up as a sister, as a wife, as a daughter, as a friend. That week plus of grieving was just for me, just for me. It had to be. Obviously, it includes, my husband as well, and the loss of our baby. We're grieving the loss of this timeline of a baby, but the grief was for me. And women don't prioritize themselves enough. And it took this experience to be like, oh, wow. Like, how often have I really just prioritized my own healing, like deeply, just sat by myself and cried. And it's such a mess, right? Like, it doesn't necessarily feel like you're doing anything productive, which can be hard. But I think if you go through this, you kind of know primally that your body has to mourn this and to go through it. And you do have to go through it alone in some ways, but there was so much more support than I could have anticipated. And I'm just so grateful for that. And there have also been some painful moments, just recognizing that some people do not know how to show up for you in grief or in hard times. And it made me think about how I could show up better for people too, because I recognized how vulnerable I was and how much I needed community and how much I needed to lean on my friends and just talk to them and tell my story, even when I could barely get it out because I was choking through sobs. But it just made me think, wow, like community is everything. Community makes me feel so wealthy. And it made me want to be a better support system for other people who are going through difficult things, because people are always going through difficult things. Hearing people's stories, like close friends who've suffered through this without me even knowing, it kind of broke my heart that they didn't reach out and that I didn't know. And so one of the gifts that I got from this was being able to be supported and then wanting to support people even more. And I would say too, self-compassion and empathy has been another silver lining of this. I have so much more compassion for myself, having gone through something so difficult, psychically, hormonally, emotionally, physically. It's really crazy to be pregnant one day and then 30 minutes later after the surgery, not be. It changes your whole chemistry instantly. But I've had more self-compassion and I've had more compassion for others too. I had to have compassion for myself for all the icky, hard parts of this and be incredibly soft with myself. And I caught myself looking in the mirror a couple of days ago and my first thought was, I look heavy. I need to lose some weight. And then I was like, wow, that is so uncompassionate. I was just pregnant. That is such a mean thing to say to myself as my body is like going through this. And it was one of those like reflexive thoughts that you just have out of habit, like this need to constantly improve oneself. And I know that we can all fall prey sometimes to like the cult of self-improvement, but I was so able that I was able to catch myself and be like, if there was ever a time to back the fuck off, being critical of yourself or just slap the inner critic across the face, it is now, you were just pregnant. And so it's taught me to have a lot more compassion for myself. Somebody asked me, kind of triggeringly, if this experience has humbled me as a manifester. And the answer is absolutely not at all. One of the reasons that I'm able to get through this experience is because I do deeply trust in divine timing. If the pregnancy wasn't viable, it is in my best interest to have a miscarriage. The timeline has shifted and I am okay with that. I trust that. One of the things that I've been wrapping my mind around is the fact that I'm less than 9 months away from being 40 years old. And so at the earliest, I will be a mom at 40, a first-time mom at 40. And growing up, I never imagined that for myself. And there is a lot of fear-mongering around being an older mother. But just like this card that I pulled today, saying I release time and let the universe show me what to do, that is what I am doing. And you bet I am meditating every day on my eggs and seeing them as golden and young and just, releasing time and turning back the clock. But I trust in divine timing. And having worked with so many students over the years and just seeing myself in my own journey, I know that when there are perceived hardships or setbacks or redirections, that ultimately it all ends up being for the highest good involved, that there is always a reason for it. So do I feel humbled? No. Do I feel out of trust with the universe? Do I feel out of alignment with what I'm doing? Absolutely not. I'm human. I'm going through human things. I incarnated on this earth to have human experiences. This moment of grief is part of that. And I'm actually really proud of the woman who it's turning me into. Like I said, I really do. It sounds cheesy, but I feel like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I know that I'm going to turn this into gold. What other choice do I have? Would I let this collapse me? Would I let this weaken my relationship with my guides, with my highest self? Last night I was laying in bed and I was having some pain still from the surgery, and I was just crying. There's been a lot of crying. And I was kind of having some of that 3D ego anxiety come in about my age and being a first-time mom, at 40 at the earliest. And I heard my highest self come in and say, don't worry, like, we got you on your timeline. And that's been the case for my whole life. I trust my timeline. I trust it all. And I'm not going to fall into the trap of like, oh, I'm too old, or no. I remember even when I met Dave, in hindsight, it feels so young. I was 26 and I felt like I had been waiting forever to meet my person. Or even when I got married, I was 32 and I was like, oh, that feels so old. I'm one of the last of my friends to get married. It's like, what? What was I thinking? Times are changing. We're evolving. Like, there are tons of moms in their 40s, but it doesn't even matter, right? I trust my timeline at the end of the day, and I still have the same strong connection to my guides, to the universe, to God's source, and I'm grateful for that. So I feel like in some ways it's made me an even stronger manifester because I feel so clear about what I want going forward. I want to double down even more on the things that I desire, like fully claim them and be like, no, like this is what I want. And I'm still in the liminal space. I'm not exactly sure who I'm going to be on the other side of this. I'm very much like in the messy middle, processing all of this, seeing how this is going to forge me and shape me. But I know I'm going to be okay. And I'm really grateful for the experience, honestly, to have even been pregnant. I loved, even though it was a little uncomfortable at times, seeing my body change and just feeling different. I loved feeling the power of and the secret of having life inside me. And I know that will happen again. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to this and for being here as I process all of this moving forward. I really appreciate it. I wanted to do this episode so that you know what I'm going through, who I'm going to be, that I'm changed going forward into this new era, and hopefully give you support if you've ever been through anything like this. Just want to say I'm so sorry. If you want to reach out to me, you are so welcome to. Women need to talk about this more. The fact that I got to 39 without knowing that a silent miscarriage was even a thing just shows that this needs to be talked about more. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the support, and thank you for just seeing me through this and my raw vulnerability. And I truly believe that there's strength in my raw, authentic power. There's a lot of power in that. And I know that when I see other people show up that way, it gives me permission to show up in my raw authenticity. So I hope that's what this episode is for you. Thank you guys, and I will see you next week.